Let's freaking go. Trying out some new streaming software today to see if it is any better because I got a message saying that my old service is raising their prices by nearly double, which is crazy. So just testing something out, see if you like it, see if you don't like it. That's why this watermark is here. So before I purchased it, I was like, well, I might as well just try to see this new streaming service, see how it works. I want to talk about Mike Washington, the Arkansas running back who has just taken over their camp. Also coming up, we will talk about the new AP poll that honestly has a lot of people going nuts over who's not necessarily in the poll, but who's not in the poll. As many of you would guess, Arkansas not ranked going into the season. So you see the poll question if you're watching this live or if you're watching this down the road. Do you think Mike Washington will have a bigger year than Jaquindon Jackson next year? And for me, I would probably say no to that. But while I am super high on Mike Washington, just based on the different camp reports, I do think Jaquindon Jackson is still going to be such a massive loss for Arkansas. I do feel he was a running back, one of the true needle-moving backs in the SEC that decided to leave. But at the same time, we get our first live comment here from Law Dog. Why is everyone so convinced that Mike Washington will be more productive than Braylon Russell? It seems like everyone soured on him after the portal fiasco. I think that's part of it, Law Dog. You also have the change in Braylon Russell's body composition. He has lost some weight to maybe have a little bit more speed. 250 is really, really high for a running back, even though I like it. I'm a big believer in thickness in the SEC at all positions, right? This is a force equals mass time acceleration league, and a lot of people can accelerate. Do you have the mass to go along with it? And Braylon Russell certainly has that, but I was fine with this body transformation. I think the thing that is very interesting is this Arkansas running back room is big, right? Mike Washington himself is no slouch when it comes to his size, but he is the guy that everyone is talking about right now at Arkansas camp. He has just broken off long run after long run. It's the explosiveness that has really stood out to quite a few people that have actually watched him. And for me, when I look at someone like a Mike Washington, if you will, I could see a role for him not only as a running back out of the backfield, but as a pass catcher. I do think the throws to the running back will be somewhat more utilized this next season because I do think this Arkansas wide receiver room last year or this year is going to be worse than what it was last year. And I'm actually pretty confident in saying that because, well, Arkansas honestly had one of the better SEC wide receiver rooms in the SEC, especially compared to expectations. So we shall see what happens there. Now, the next thing I want to get into is the AP poll, right? So we get, obviously, a lot of you are familiar with the college football AP poll. It is a poll that is done every year, and a lot of people have been questioning the validity of the AP poll. Look, I am of the belief that it does serve a purpose. I like the fact that it does exist, as long as you're able to look at it with a nuanced viewpoint, right? If you look at it through the lens of it just being a poll, somewhere where there is a starting point when it comes to how you view everybody in college football, as long as you don't take it too seriously, you'll be okay, right? But for me, this college football AP poll pretty much explains what Arkansas has to go through this next season, right? One thing about this AP poll that you do see is that there's only one non-Power 4 team in this poll, and that is Boise State at 25. Could you see a world where Memphis has a strong season and finds their way into the top 25. It wouldn't be totally unprecedented, but they did lose Seth Hannigan. We'll see how that turns out. But for me, Arkansas fans, I truly do believe you can make a very strong point. And Law Dog, thank you for the super chat already. I appreciate the Cash App, man. It goes a long way. What I could tell you from looking at this poll and just looking at what the Hogs have to go through, you have to play number 24. You have to play number 19. You have to play number 9. You have to play number 8. You have to play number 1. And by the way, that's just your conference schedule. You do not have to play number 6 next year in Notre Dame. So, to me, as is the case oftentimes with Arkansas, you probably do have the hardest schedule in the SEC this year, or at the very least, a top 3 difficult schedule in the SEC going into next year. So, there you go. Now, the next thing I want to get into is why do we pay so much attention to the AP poll? Is there a better way for us to do a preseason prognostication of the college football season? I believe there is, and I do want to show you this. It's not anything too crazy, but there was this guy. His name is Nicholas Carr on Twitter, and he did something very interesting. He was able to do this consensus poll of all the different preseason analytic companies. All right. Actually, let me see. Has this been sharing my screen? Okay. Has this been sharing? Let me see. No, it's not sharing my screen. Let me see. Stop screen share. Okay. Let's see if we can get this going. See, I want to show this on the screen. Let's see. No, it's not showing. Or at least I don't think it's showing. It might make me pay to show the screen. Let me see. That is so strange that it's not letting me put the... If it says I'm going to... Okay, I'm not going to switch over to this service. But the bottom line is, because I was talking, I was showing this graphic that I pulled from On3 and it doesn't show. But for me, you take a look at what Arkansas has to play, or do I have to? Oh, I have to put it. There you go. I have to do it like that, which is kind of strange. Arkansas, as you can see, plays quite a few of these SEC teams, and on top of that, you could see, based on what the preseason analytic companies have said about Arkansas going into next year, you are way down this list of potential teams that couldn't make noise this next year in the SEC. I'll shrink it just a little bit for you to see. All the analytical companies have you as a distant, and I mean distant, 13th ranked team. As you can see, Missouri is 10 spots higher than Arkansas with a 32.8 average ranking per K-Ford ratings, per SP Plus, per FPI, FEI, college football, CFB professor, and your strength of schedule ranking. And once again, you see to that far right column, only behind Oklahoma and Florida, Arkansas has the 3rd toughest schedule in the SEC. All right. Okay. My wife's in here. She said, "Hey, did you turn the air back on?" Well, I can't answer your text. I'm working. Yes, I did turn the air back on. Did you think that I was going to do my show in a sauna? Our air conditioner went out. And it is indeed working. Tony San Diego says, we will be ranked very soon. So what does Arkansas need to do to be ranked next year? Is there anything that they can do to be ranked other than, of course, win? I think the only way Arkansas can for sure be ranked going into next year is if they win versus Notre Dame. All right, you take a look at the schedule. Obviously, you have a few warm-up games, if you will. But if you do beat Notre Dame, you're going to be ranked. You are going to be ranked, okay? Look, for me, Arkansas, you should beat Alabama A&M. You should beat Arkansas State. Obviously, if you beat Ole Miss at Ole Miss, that'll make you 3-0. Does that get you ranked? Maybe. So I guess if you beat Ole Miss and then you go on the road and beat Memphis, you're probably going to be ranked going into Notre Dame. I would also say, though, you would more than likely still be ranked if you beat Notre Dame and you lose to Ole Miss. You lose to Ole Miss and then you beat Notre Dame, you're going to be 4-1 with one of the better wins in college football versus the national champion finalists. The one thing that really sets up nicely for you, and we talked about this last week regarding Arkansas going into next year, is you do and you are in a position where Arkansas will be playing a bunch of first-year starters. All right, obviously you have Garrett Nussmeier later in the year, and he'll probably light you up again because he is that guy. But the truth is, we don't know what Arch Manning is fully going to be just yet. We don't know what Tennessee's quarterback room looks like. I think Marcel Reed has a higher bench risk. So as high as a lot of teams are in preseason prognostications, and we did just show you that Arkansas is the number 3 ranked schedule in the SEC in terms of schedule difficulty. The truth is, you're playing a lot of first-year quarterbacks. And let's just say Taylor Green does take a step forward. There is growing belief that Arkansas could be in a better spot than many would think going into next year. We say hi to E. Clay Thomason. Answer my wife already did, but she did ask, is the air conditioner cooling? Well, here's the thing. If I say I turn the air conditioner back on, I would guess that would assume that it's cooling. Or at least I would think it's cooling. I don't know. When I'm doing this, I lock in. Or I try to. But no. Gotta have the wife saying, hey, I will not step foot in the house again unless everything is cooled back down. But look, as much fun as I have trying to do a show with weak air conditioning and a wife nagging you if it's not exactly 71.3 degrees. I literally have to hold out a thermometer into the air vent to make sure it's like a perfect temperature. I'm like Wolfgang Puck measuring the temperature of his pot roast, if you will. I don't know if it's gotten that much cooler because I've been in here working all day. Now, next thing regarding Arkansas football going into next year, and then we'll get into a few other SEC news and notes. I do think Arkansas defensively has a chance to totally implode next year. I mean, totally implode. It's very fascinating what this defense is going to look like next year because it is going to be so transfer heavy. There's not really a face of the Arkansas defense. Over the past couple of years, Landon Jackson has kind of been the face of this thing. Played a full 3 seasons and was a mostly good player. Does Quincy Rhodes step in and be that guy going into next year? I don't know. I'm high on Quincy Rhodes going into next year. I really am. It could just be that I'm biased towards players that play for the home state school. Could it be that this is his year where he catapults himself maybe on some NFL draft boards? We'll see. Another thing that's really fascinating is this secondary is totally new. I had a friend who graduated from Arkansas, and he called me over the weekend, and he said it's hard to keep up with this team because there's just so many transfers. And honestly, there's so many teams in the SEC that on defense, they're basically just starting a new team full of transfers. It's just transfers all over the place. Even programs that do get the elite recruits. LSU is mostly going to be a transfer-laden defense going into next year. So, there you go. Now, here's what we're going to do. I want to talk a little bit more about Sam Pittman going into next year. There have been some absolutely positively wild, and I mean wild, rumors out there. My buddy Aaron Torres had one that got everybody pretty fired up with John Gruden. He said Arkansas should go after John Gruden. I say yes to that. I really do, and it's not just because I met Gruden at the Super Bowl, but I do think he would be someone that wouldn't be your normal retread coach. Because if you actually look at him in his media career, John Gruden's a guy that goes a gazillion miles per hour. He's got 5 different sports media projects that he does, right? He does the whiteboard series with the quarterbacks. He does his own versions of football breakdowns. He's touring every football facility, college and pro out there. He does the unboxing stuff. I mean, there's a lot of energy. It's not just, hey, I'm going to fly in, do a game breakdown, and then just fly back home and put my slippers on and play with my Chucky dolls. No, he actually goes out there and is balls to the freaking wall regarding Arkansas football when he gets an Arkansas box, or any team. When he gets a box from any team, he is going balls to the wall. So I would be open to that. But, I do think when it comes to SEC hot seats, there's not a hotter one than Brent Venables at Oklahoma. But, I do think Sam Pittman might be number 2. And heck, he might be number 1. So in the live chat right now, type Y for yes, type N for no. If you think Sam Pittman will be safe if he were to go 6-6 next year, do you think 6-6 in a bowl game gets Arkansas to another year of Sam Pittman? Let's go to Brady G. Yes, Arkansas improved at running back. Mike Washington is that guy, and Russell is lighter and faster. We did not talk about Rodney Hill. He gets a new jersey number as well. How about that? Which should help not getting hurt. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I guess Rodney Hill is a solid running back. He's a good RB3, if you will. But I go back to Law Dog and his initial point about Braylon Russell going into next year. Braylon should come in motivated. I do think he burned quite a few bridges for some Arkansas fans with him going into the portal and out of the portal and in the portal and out of the portal, in the portal, out of the portal. For me, I just don't think that should really matter. Did it drive me insane? Yeah. Did it drive you insane? Yeah. But I can also tell you, and I'm not the insider type, you come here to listen to me for perspective. A lot of film study stuff. We're obviously building the live stream, testing out a new software, as you can see. So if you're just joining us, it looks different. You see the watermark. I'm trying a new streaming company here. But all of that aside, I want to say, as far as someone who knows a little something about the portal in and out, it wasn't just him involved in that, as is the case for a lot of these portal in and out, Nico kinds of situations. There's a bunch of cooks in the kitchen, if you will. So it's not necessarily breaking news per se, but I'm always going to defend someone like Braylon Russell to a certain degree when it comes to that. And I do believe that Arkansas players, if you're from the state of Arkansas and you play for the Arkansas Razorbacks and you are a good player, there are few states that will take better care of you than the Arkansas Razorback football program. Because here's the thing. Let's say you are at LSU and you're from Louisiana and you are a phenomenal player. Guess what? You're set for life at LSU. Set for life. I've seen it myself. But here's the thing. There have been a gazillion great players at LSU. A gazillion. From Louisiana that have played for the state. If you're Braylon Russell, how many great Arkansas Razorback players played for the Arkansas Razorbacks? I would say probably there's maybe one per class, if that. And scarcity always rules the world. You can be that one. Right? You could be that one. You know, we talked about Quincy Rhodes a little bit earlier. What Isaiah Satania spat in the face of all of his Arkansas supporters and went to an SEC cohort, if you will. Braylon Russell has a chance to really etch his name in Arkansas lore this next year. He really does. Brady said, I would take Kyle Whittingham over Rhett Lashley or John Gruden. Interesting. Now, a few other SEC news and notes, because this is an SEC channel, but I do dedicate, it's a mostly Arkansas live stream every Monday at 5. All right. Now, I'm really excited. I'll actually be in Little Rock consecutive Mondays, not just this Monday, but the next Monday. Really pumped up about that. Having lunch with the few viewers of the channel. I'm really excited about that. But, you know, I try my best to temper my expectations for an Arkansas program under Sam Pittman that's just not really that good. But I do think, as far as the SEC is concerned, could we be talking ourselves into an overvalued SEC? What if the SEC, the middle tier and the higher tier teams, aren't as good as we think they are? What if that is indeed the case? Which I think has a higher likelihood than one would think. You know, for me, I'm not sure if the transfer portal, this crop of players, were as good as the overall crop of transfers in the last cycle. I also think the bottom of the SEC has gotten so much better, and the upper tier of the SEC has not separated themselves as much from the bottom tier as one would like. Hell, we had Vanderbilt beat a team that almost made the playoff. We had Arkansas beat a playoff team last year. So, to me, that's a good thing if you're Arkansas. That's a really good thing. I'm not as high on Georgia as most this year. Could I see a world where Alabama is back to prominence this year? Yeah, but I don't think they'll ever be as good as they were under Saban. Obviously on the high end, but I'm talking about minimum 10 wins per season. So if that's the case, it could be that you as an Arkansas fan are so hyper fixated on Arkansas and this team going into next year. You're so locked in on this team potentially not being, I guess you could say, as talented as you would like them to be. under a year 6 head coach. But college football, more than any other sport, is as much who you play as who you are. Perfect example of this was Indiana. If Indiana played Arkansas last year, knowing what we know about the Notre Dame game, what would the point spread be? I'm serious. And I defended Indiana getting into the playoff. What would the point spread be? If Arkansas played last year's version of Indiana, those two teams played, Indiana would probably be, if the game was played on a neutral field, probably 4.5, 5-point favorites. So somewhere around there. So, look, I see, Little Joker, you're dropping some really good comments right now. I get that this Arkansas schedule is hard. It is the third hardest in the SEC. I can make a case it is the hardest in the SEC. But you play one quarterback that returns as a starter on a P4 team. One. Well, two, but one of my hotter SEC takes is Marcel Reed has a higher bench risk than one would think. And then three, if you want to include Blake Shapen, but he only started a few games last year. So technically 3, 4 if you want to throw Arch in there because he started a few games last year. But, I'm trying to make a positive case for Arkansas going into next year. Okay? Now, other SEC news and notes. It looks as if Ty Simpson's going to be the starter in Alabama. Not really a shocker there. I just don't think Ty Simpson is going to fail. I don't think he's just going to be terrible. It's going to be really hard for him not to, if the offensive line is going to be somewhat decent going into next year. And I just think Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, and the Miami transfer that they brought in, I just think that's going to be one of the better SEC wide receiver trios. You could make a case maybe the best since Malik BTJ and Kyron Lacey in 2023. So, I don't think it's news that Ty Simpson is leaning towards being the starter. I also think his floor is relatively high unless he's just terrible. Unless he is just flat out terrible. Which I don't know. Also found it interesting. You saw Isaac Tesla catch his first touchdown. Congrats to him as far as Arkansas Razorback news is concerned. Let's see here. John Gruden quote. That's the quote I wanted to pull up. I'd die to coach in the SEC. Why not Arkansas? Why not? Get interesting. Let's go to Brady. He says this Ole Miss game could show how good you will be going into next year. Yeah. I'm glad you're catching Ole Miss early in the year, though. I am. Ole Miss obviously is a team under Lane that's played better as the season has moved on. Early, you can catch them, though. You really can. And, this game has been a blowout quite a few times But including the last two times at Fayetteville, dear Lord. But yeah, I could see a world where Arkansas beats Ole Miss this year. I just have a tough time. The analytics guys like Ole Miss a lot next year. They actually have them rated higher, some do, than LSU. It's just hard for me knowing how many freaking good football players that Ole Miss lost on defense. Now, it's one thing if it's Georgia, where Georgia has a track record losing all those first-round picks and, just having a team ready to go the very next year defensively to win an Natty or just be a good defense. But I struggle with the school like Ole Miss doing it. Obviously, Pete Golding is one of the better defensive coordinators in college football. But, yeah, it's hard for me, very, very, very hard to get there with Ole Miss. And I think that is a very winnable game for Arkansas going into next year. Okay? So, there you go. Now, I did get this just pop up. I accidentally clicked this. So for the super chat earlier that we got, let's see, where did I go? Okay, this was from Law Dog. Round of applause. Yeah, this has been the worst live I've done. On my end, you guys have been amazing. S-Jack says, if Arkansas beats Ole Miss, look out. Look out. Look out. Now, a few things regarding Arkansas moving forward. I hopped on a phone call with a loyal viewer who is really well connected. And he's just a great guy. I'll keep him anonymous for this. All right. Very lucky myself. I went to high school in Arkansas. Love the natural state. Always will love it. With that said, it's a mess. The athletics department's a mess. Okay. There is nothing worse in life when you as a fan of a team don't know what the future looks like at head coach. There is nothing worse. Like right now, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you could be as high as you want to be on Jaden Knott and John Mateer and Sooner Magic and all that BS. But there are a lot of Oklahoma fans in the back of their mind that are saying, hey, we don't know if Brent Venables is a guy. We just don't. There's LSU fans that feel that way about Brian Kelly. Outside of a few SEC schools, everybody has that kind of feeling, but no one really has a more negative feeling towards their head coach in the SEC right now than Arkansas fans to Sam Pittman. And it's not that you dislike Sam. I don't think a lot of you dislike Sam at all. I don't dislike Sam, even though, I've called for his head a few times over the past couple of seasons. I don't dislike him, contrary to popular belief. I have met him once before, and yeah, it's nothing really. It's nothing personal towards him at all, right? But I do think it's worse when you don't feel comfortable about your athletic director. I mean, I swear, every time there is an AD opening out there, it always feels as if Hunter Yurichek's name is floated for whatever reason. So it's hard. It's really hard as an Arkansas fan because you want that alignment. Your two most important players in all your athletic departments is your football head coach and your athletic director. But Arkansas is in a different spot where you have an unpopular athletic director and you have an unpopular head coach. Now, I have talked to Hunter Yurachek, I think, anywhere from 5 to 7 different occasions at just various events. And the last I talked to him was actually in an airport in Chicago last year. And I like him. I mean, I like him personally. I don't have anything against it, but it is something that every time that there is an AD opening, it just seems like you're hearing a rumor regarding Hunter Yurachek, whatever. But it is unique because you have an extremely popular basketball coach. You do. Okay. And this would be the question, because this has already been brought up with Mark Pope at Kentucky, where Mark Pope is getting a larger share of the salary, $20.5 million allotment, which is obviously a little bit more than that number if you factor in other NIL deals and stuff like that. But Kentucky's getting their basketball program's getting a larger share of it. Now, what's interesting, and I think as far as Arkansas football is concerned, Whole Hog Sports just did a story on this, and a friend of mine directly asked Sam Pittman about this at SEC Media Days, involving Sam not having the same support staff and funding as the other schools. It is interesting how you as an athletic department, do you really want to lean in on being a basketball school? Do you really want to do that? So answer this in the live chat right now or down the road. And I want to talk about a few other SEC football teams. But let me know, would you prefer to just lean into basketball and have a bigger piece of your pie, if you will, go towards basketball? I wouldn't think any more or less of you. Even though I like football more than basketball, I still love college basketball. I'm telling you, a top 5 sporting event I have ever been to in terms of loudness and eclectic fan atmospheres, especially if you take out all Louisiana events for me, where I would be severely biased towards that. Arkansas basketball versus Duke is something I think about a lot, getting to go to that game. That was legit a different, mind-numbingly crazy experience for me as a sports fan. I don't know if I'm ever going to experience that in a gym again. That's how crazy it was in there. And this is coming from a neutral. I think there is a world where Arkansas could be the best basketball school in the SEC. Better than Nate Oates in Alabama. Better than freaking Bruce Pearl at Auburn. I could see it. Especially if you want to lean into it and say, you know what? We are going to use more of our money towards the basketball program. Why are we fighting an uphill battle in football? It's a good question. A few other football news and notes. I want to talk about Tennessee. Tennessee, I've not been ignoring you. There's just not really been a whole lot of stuff I could cut to produce a film study from. But we've done our Joey Aguilar film study. Obviously, Tennessee is on Arkansas' schedule. You also get them midway through the season after your bye week, even though that game is going to be in Knoxville. I have never seen, and I really do mean this, a fan base freak out more than Tennessee's fan base freaked out from one of their recent scrimmages. Holy crap. It is insane to me. Like, Nico leaves, selfishly leaves. I thought it was kind of rich for UCLA to mic up Nico at a practice recently and him talk about family. Please. But whatever the case may be, Tennessee might be a terrible team next year. They might be terrible. They lost. I mean, so much has been focused on freaking the quarterback, and it should be on the quarterback. But they lost Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year last year. And he's out the door. So what do we make of Tennessee going into next year? How do we feel about the Tennessee Volunteers? I still think Josh Heupel, especially if you factor in the last 3 years, has been the best coach in the SEC. Obviously, Kirby's number one, but I can make a case what he's done at Georgia is equally as impressive as what Josh Heupel has done with the Tennessee program that forever couldn't get their head coach right. And with 3 different quarterbacks, Josh Heupel has put up some really, really, really good seasons. So, what do we make about the Vols going into next year? What do we make about Joey Aguilar? We'll see. Tight end room should be good with Kitzelman and Zero, who's going to be a good player for them. Wide receiver, there's hope that Mike Matthews can emerge for them, but there's better receivers in that room than him, but that's a big wild card. And then defensively, Tim Banks is a good DC, but you lose 2 top 50 picks on that front. Now, I know they heavily rotated that front, but James Pierce and Omar Norman Lott are gone. I'm very fascinated with the Vols this year. And if Josh Heupel gets this Tennessee team to the playoff, he is the best coach in the SEC. End of discussion. Because on paper, I don't know if I see it. I really don't know if I see it at this point. And I was really high on Tennessee going into last year. Brady thinks Tennessee won't be as good going into next year. So there you go. Now, another SEC team, Vanderbilt. Arkansas does not have to play Vanderbilt next year. I'm a little shocked that Vanderbilt is so low on all these polls. I would be interested to see how many AP poll votes they actually got, if any. But analytically, we showed you this a little bit earlier. The analytics actually like Arkansas better than Vanderbilt going into next year. And the vibes couldn't be opposite. One thing that you can say about Vanderbilt is they actually do return quite a few pieces from their team last year to this year. They are going to be an older team, carried obviously by Diego Pavia and their tight end Eli Stowers. So as far as Vanderbilt is concerned, they're kind of a sexy overplay, but we'll see. We'll take a few more. Law Dog, once again, thanks for the super a little bit earlier. He said Hog basketball could win it all, and the excitement wouldn't be half of what it is, as if the football team could make the college football playoff. I won't disagree with that. It would definitely be more shocking if Arkansas's football team were to actually make the playoff compared to the basketball team winning it all. But the truth is, Law Dog, is that national championships are what people remember. And for me, you guys need to win a natty in something. just something. 94 is just too long to not have won a natty in something that somebody cares about. Now, I won't talk about that other sport because that'll just be rubbing it in. But in basketball, sure. Now, some of y'all have to let me know about the women's basketball team. They got a new coach. Okay. Mike Neighbors at the door. Let's see. I want to end on this. Go on to make sure I didn't miss any Twitter DMs or anything. Once again, sorry for the rough start with the new software. I probably won't be using it there. Like, hey, try it out, see if you like it. But whatever. The biggest SEC storyline this year is the sword fighting with the Big Ten involving you only play 8 conference games and 9 conference games. And my stance on this remains the same. Is that, yes, the SEC 8-game schedule, especially with the bottom half of the SEC being better to me than the bottom half of the Big Ten, and the bottom half of the SEC being stronger, arguably, than it's ever been before. What I would say that I think is very important is I don't give a damn about the playoff anymore. Now, do I care if my team makes the playoff, like that individual team, which is the LSU Tigers? Yeah, of course. Everybody wants to make the playoffs. Will I watch the playoffs? Yeah, I will watch the playoffs. I'm not saying that I hate the college football playoff. I just hate that the entire oxygen of everything in college football has been about the playoff. What makes college football great is its regular season, and I don't give a damn that it gives us the SEC the SEC. If you add a conference game, it adds 8 more guaranteed losses to your league. But what they don't tell you is it does not take away that team's chances to really win a national championship. If you're good enough to win a national championship, you can overcome one extra conference game. You always can, and you always should be able to. Look no farther than Georgia. Just a few years ago, winning a national championship, kicking off the season with Bo Nix in Oregon, then having to play Georgia Tech. So they played 10 conference games, 8 SEC games, and 2 non-Power 4 non-conference games, and they still won the whole damn thing. The best teams, it doesn't matter if you have to play an extra conference game. The reason why the SEC doesn't want to add an extra conference game is that it's for Tennessee. It's for the teams that barely get into the playoff, because every team that gets into the playoff, you make a hell of a lot more money. The conference makes more money. So it's not necessarily for a national championship region. It's just getting as many teams as you possibly can into the college football playoff. And we can get into a debate over the 4-4-1-1-2-6-3-8 model and the 5-11 model. And obviously the 4-1 was kind of made up, but the 4-4-2-2-1-1-1 model, whatever it is, what I would tell you as a college football fan, as far as the 8 versus the 9, I want an extra conference game because it gives me 8 more exciting games for me to watch as a college football fan. And hopefully it continues in the non-conference that we get matchups like LSU Clemson and Arkansas and Notre Dame and so on and so on. Florida State and Alabama. But, I will always be a 9-game conference schedule guy. Hey, Lawrence, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Every Monday at 5 p.m. we'll be live. Now, this is crazy, and it happens. I had a guest cancel on me. I was supposed to have a guest today, and he canceled. The worst is, and I swear, the worst is when a guest cancels and you reach out to the guest, and then they say, hey, I can't do it. I never mind if someone calls and texts me, hey, I can't do your show tonight. Or if they forget, it's a little bit different, when you reach out. But when you just don't even bother, makes it hard. Makes it really, really, really hard. So, sorry about that. I was really excited about our guest tonight. But we'll do it again next Monday. And we should have a guest. We do have one lined up next Monday. So, every Monday, 5 p.m. Central, we should have another Arkansas film study out pretty soon as well. So, there you go. It is Power Hour SEC. Boom. Tonight, we are doing some barbecue chicken. Let's go.